If Life is a Game, These Are the Rules by Cherie Carter-Scott, abridged, read by Vincent Bagnall. Life has often been compared to a game. We're never told the rules, unfortunately, nor given any instructions about how to play. We simply begin at go and make our way around the board, hoping we play it right. We don't exactly know the objective of playing, nor what it means to actually win. That is what 10 Rules for Being Human is all about. These are the guidelines to playing the game we call life. But they are all so much more than that. These rules will provide you with a basic spiritual primer for what it means to be a human. They are universal truths that everyone inherently knows but has forgotten somewhere along the way. They form the foundation of how we can live a fulfilling, meaningful life. Each rule presents its own challenge, which in turn provides certain lessons we all need to learn. Lessons are what you learn when you come up against problems that need to be solved and issues that need to be exercised. Every person on the planet has his or her own set of lessons to learn that are separate and unique from everyone else's, and these lessons, as you will see in Rule 4, will reappear until they are mastered. The 10 rules for being human are not magic, nor do they promise 10 easy steps to serenity. They offer no quick fix for emotional or spiritual ailments, and they are not fast-track secrets to enlightenment. Their only purpose is to give you a roadmap to follow as you travel your path of spiritual growth. These rules are not the oppressive rules and regulations that tell us what we should or should not do or think or say. These rules are not mandates, but rather guidelines as to how to play the game. There's nothing you absolutely must do. The moment you arrived here on this earth, you were given a body in which to house your spiritual essence. The real you is stored inside this body. All the hopes, dreams, fears, thoughts, expectations, and beliefs that make you the unique human that you are. Though you will travel through your entire lifetime together, you and your body will always remain two separate and distinct entities. The purpose of this body is to act as the buffer between you and the outside world and to transport you through this game we call life. It also acts as a teacher of some of the initial and fundamental lessons about being human. And if you are open to all the lessons and gifts your body has to offer you, it can impart to you valuable bits of wisdom and grace that will guide you along your path of spiritual evolution. It can provide you with the basic knowledge and understanding you'll need to be grounded within it before you can progress onward on your journey. Acceptance. If you are one of the rare and fortunate people who already experience your body as perfect exactly as it is, with all its foibles and strengths, then you've already embraced the lesson of acceptance and can fast forward to the next lesson. However, if any small part of you believes that you would be happier if you were thinner, taller, larger, firmer, blonder, stronger, or some other physical alteration you think would magically transform your life for the better, then you might want to spend some time learning about the value of true acceptance. Acceptance is the act of embracing what life presents to you with a good attitude. Our bodies are among the most willing and wise teachers of this lesson. Unless you spend a large percentage of your time engaged in out-of-body experiences, your body shows up wherever you are. It can be like an ever-present benevolent guide or a lifelong cross you bear. The decision is yours based on how well you learn this lesson. For many people, their body is the target for their harshest judgments and the barometer by which they measure their self-worth. They hold themselves up to an unattainable standard and berate themselves for coming up short of perfection. And since your physical shape is the form in which you show up in the world, it is very often the way you define yourself, and often the way others define you. The way you view your body is directly related to how close you are to learning the lesson of acceptance. Self-esteem. Self-esteem is feeling worthy and able to meet life's challenges. It is as essential as the air we breathe and just as intangible. It comes from the depths of our core. Yet it is reflected in every single outward action we take, grand or small. It is the essence from which we measure our worth and the most important building block in the foundation of our psyches. If self-esteem is a lesson that you need to learn, you will be tested over and over until you feel confident about who you are and understand and believe in your intrinsic value. Your body may provide you with enough opportunities to work on this lesson throughout your entire lifetime. Your body may teach you the lesson of self-esteem by testing your willingness to view yourself as worthy, regardless of what you look like or how your body performs. A friend of mine is a public speaker who has had 2 major accidents in his life. First, a motorcycle accident set 90% of his body on fire, and then several years later, a small plane crash broke his back and put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Through many years of hard inner work, he came to realize that in spite of his circumstances, he could live a fulfilled life as long as he approached it with the right attitude. Rather than dwelling on all the things he cannot do, he now focuses on those things he can do. His life's work is to inspire audiences with his lecture called, "It's Not What Happens to You, It's What You Do About It." He demonstrates on a daily basis that he is able to meet life's challenges and that he is worthy of happiness despite severe physical shortcomings. The process of building self-esteem is threefold. The first step is to identify what stands in your way. By acknowledging the limiting belief that you have about yourself, you can then move to the second step, to search your soul for a deeper core connection with who you really are. The third step is to take action, whether that means valuing yourself just as you are or making a positive change. Respect. To respect your body means to hold it in high regard and honor it. Respect is treating your body with the same care you would give any other valuable and irreplaceable object. Learning to respect your body is vital. When you respect your body, you are in partnership with it. You become grounded in your physical body and able to benefit from all it has to offer you. Respect carries reciprocal energy. Your body will honor you when you honor it. Treat your body as a structure worthy of respect, and it will respond in kind. Abuse or ignore it, and it will break down in various ways until you learn the lesson of respect. I know a man named Gordon who views his body as a sacred temple. Besides keeping it extraordinarily fit through regular exercise and sports, he maintains excellent health by always caring for it diligently. He eats only healthy foods, would never dream of going out in the cold improperly dressed, and generally treats his body as a valuable treasure. As a result of all the love he gives it, his body never fails him. He's almost always at optimum performance. His body is his beloved partner and ready to do whatever he needs it to do. Of course, each person's body is different. It could be considered a big stretch for anyone else to maintain the level of attentiveness Gordon gives his body. Every person's body has a specific formula that works for it. It is your responsibility to become acquainted with your body's individual requirements. No one diet works for everyone, nor does anyone's sleep or exercise regimen. True respect comes from learning what your body needs to run at optimum performance and then making the commitment to honoring those needs. Pleasure. Pleasure is the physical manifestation of joy. Your body teaches you pleasure through your 5 senses. When you indulge in any spontaneous behavior or physical sensation that unlocks the joy stored within you, you create space in your consciousness for pleasure. Your body can be one of the greatest sources of pleasure when you open your 5 senses fully and experience the physical wonder of being alive. Pleasure can come in the form of sight, like when you see a magnificent sunset, or taste, like when you eat a favorite food. It can come as a glorious musical sound or the soft touch of a lover. The only secret to learning the lesson of pleasure is to make time and space for it in your life. How much pleasure will you allow yourself? Many people have an invisible quota in their minds for the amount of joy they will permit themselves to experience. They become so busy living life that they view pleasure as a luxury. they simply do not have time for. Things like lovemaking or playing take a back seat to the everyday motions of living. However, your life simply will not work as well when you deny yourself pleasure. You may find yourself living a rather colorless life if you do not pause every now and then to indulge your senses. Pleasure is like the oil that keeps the machine of your life running smoothly. Without it, the gears stick and you will most likely break down. Sometimes I forget the importance of pleasure as I race through the demands and commitments of my life. I forego a day at the beach with my husband in order to finish a project, or I cancel my appointment for a massage so I can take care of errands. Inevitably, I begin to feel irritable and tense, which is a signal to me that I need to slow down and let in a little joy. Rule 2. You will be presented with lessons. Openness. Openness means being receptive. Life will present you with innumerable lessons, none of which will be useful to you unless you recognize them and are open to their inherent value. These lessons will show up every day of your life, and as difficult as some of them may be, you need to change your perception and come to see them as gifts or guides along your path toward living as your authentic self. I have watched hundreds of people in my workshops experience the profound transformation that comes when they understand that every event in their lives occurs to teach them something about themselves. When you accept the lessons that life brings you, no matter how unpleasant or challenging they may be, you take the crucial first step toward finding your true self and your purpose. You begin to cultivate the essential attitude of openness. I'm often asked how people can recognize their lessons. My response is that each person's lessons are always self-evident. It's just a matter of what lenses the person is wearing at the time. If they are wearing the lenses of resistance, they may become angry or bitter, and this stubbornness will prevent their personal growth. If they are wearing the lenses of openness and clear discernment, they will gain a deeper understanding of what different life situations can teach them. Choice. Choice is the exploration of desire and then the selection of action. In every moment, you are choosing either to align yourself with your own true path or to veer away from it. There are no neutral actions. Even the smallest gesture has a direction to it, leading you closer to your path or farther away from it, whether you realize it or not. Pure actions, like spending time with a beloved friend, bring you into alignment, whereas false ones, such as spending time with someone you really don't like but to whom you feel obligated, alienate you from your truth. Every choice carries weight. Though used synonymously, choice and decision are not the same thing. Decisions are made in your mind, whereas choices are made in your gut. Decisions come from the rational, reasonable weighing of the circumstances. Choices come from your essence and an attunement with your higher self. Fairness. Our sense of fairness is the expectation of equity, the assumption that all things are equal and that justice will always prevail. Life is not, in fact, fair, and you may indeed have a more difficult life path than others around you, deserved or not. Everyone's circumstances are unique, and everyone needs to handle his or her own circumstances differently. As you work toward aligning yourself with your own individual truth, you will be required to move out of the complaining phase of "it's not fair." If you want to move toward serenity, focusing on the unfairness of circumstances keeps you comparing yourself with others rather than appreciating your own special uniqueness. You miss out on learning your individual lessons by distracting yourself with feelings of bitterness and resentment. Grace. Grace is one of those intangible qualities that is difficult to describe but easy to recognize. Those who possess grace seem to walk effortlessly through life. They give the illusion of glowing from within, and that glow is apparent to everyone around them. To live in a state of grace means to be fully in tune with your spiritual nature and a higher power that sustains you. Grace comes when you're able to move from your lower self, where your ego dictates the path that should be rightfully yours, to your higher self, where you are able to transcend your ego and expand into your greater good. It comes when you shift from a me me-centered reality to an understanding of the bigger picture. Grace comes when you understand and accept that the universe always creates circumstances that lead every person to his or her own true path, and that everything happens for a reason, as part of a divine plan. Rule 3. There are no mistakes, only lessons. Compassion. Compassion is the act of opening your heart. To live in a state of compassion means you approach the world with your emotional barriers lowered and your ability to connect with others intact. Compassion is the emotional glue that keeps you rooted in the universality of the human experience, as it connects you to your essence and to the essence of those around you. We do not all walk around with our hearts wide open all the time. However, doing so would leave us overwhelmed and in emotional danger. If I kept my heart open and exposed while watching the 6 o'clock news every night, I would most likely never recover from the rush of helpless and hopeless feelings created by all the tragic stories. Sometimes it is necessary to keep your emotional barriers up as a way to protect yourself. The key to learning the lesson of compassion is realizing that you are in control of the erection or destruction of those barriers that create distance between you and others. You can choose to dissolve those barriers when you want to connect with the heart of another human being. You can also choose to limit others' access to your heart when you need to, by forming judgments that separate you from that which you are judging. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is the act of erasing an emotional debt. As you move from compassion to forgiveness, your heart is already open and you engage in a conscious and deliberate release of resentment. Perceiving past actions as mistakes implies guilt and blame, and it is not possible to learn anything meaningful while you are engaged in blaming. There are 4 kinds of forgiveness. The first is beginner forgiveness for yourself. Not long ago, I got lost on the New York subway. I was late for a meeting with a friend, causing her to wait for me in the freezing rain for nearly an hour. I felt absolutely terrible and was on the verge of beating myself up when I boarded yet another train to try to reach my destination. I finally realized that I was doing the very best I could under the circumstances. I remembered the value of extending compassion toward myself and made amends by sincerely apologizing when I reached my friend, and I then released the situation. The second kind of forgiveness is beginner forgiveness for another. This is where you need to forgive someone for a moderate transgression. For instance, my friend who had to wait for me in the rain could have been really upset and held a grudge, but instead of harboring resentment, she graciously accepted my apology, and we repaired the temporary rift. When I asked her to tell me how she forgave me so quickly, she said she knew I didn't intend to make her wait. The third kind of forgiveness is advanced forgiveness of yourself. This is for serious transgressions, the ones you carry with deep shame. When you do something that violates your own values and ethics, you create a chasm between your standards and your actual behavior, which compromises your integrity. You need to work very hard at forgiving yourself for these deeds so that you can close this chasm and realign with the best part of yourself. The last and perhaps most difficult kind of forgiveness is the advanced forgiveness of another. Everyone I know has been morally wronged or severely hurt by another person at some time in his or her own life to such a degree that forgiveness seems impossible. However, harboring resentments and revenge fantasies only keeps you trapped in victimhood. It is only through forgiveness that you can erase wrongdoing and clean the slate. Ethics. So you made what you perceived to be a mistake. You eventually forgave yourself, made amends, and released the situation from your mind. You will still be left with one lingering lesson: the importance of ethics. Morality is conforming to the established standards of right and wrong that have been set by the society in which you live, but ethical codes are not universal. There is no one set of guidelines that works for everyone around the world, since what we may consider morally wrong in one culture might be acceptable in another. For some, Ethics are defined by religious laws. For others, moral codes arise from lessons learned in school or from parents. Most people in our culture were raised with the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. At its most basic, ethics involves choosing right or good behavior in your relationship with others. You are constantly strengthening your ability to choose between right or wrong. While we have basic ethics instilled in us and know what is right and what is wrong in our hearts, life throws many situations at us where what is right is not always apparent. Humor. The lesson of humor means learning to invite levity and amusement into situations that might otherwise be disastrous. If you are going to view the hardships that happen to you or the slip-ups you make as lessons rather than mistakes, a sense of humor will prove helpful. When you learn to laugh at your mishaps, you are able to instantaneously transform perceived bad situations into opportunities to learn something about the absurdity of human behavior, most especially your own. Humor and laughter are also tremendously important in relationships. Sharing a good laugh with someone does wonders. A friend of mine told me that once, when she and her husband were having a disagreement, he made a face that struck her as so comical she burst out laughing. They both realized how silly they were being as they were able to share a laugh and resolve their inner conflict with a new perspective. As Victor Borg said, laughter is the closest distance between two people. Lesson 4. A lesson is repeated until learned. Awareness. Awareness is the process of becoming fully conscious. Awareness can trickle into the corners of your mind slowly as you clean out the cobwebs, or it can dawn suddenly the moment you become cognizant of your patterns and begin to see yourself objectively. However, it is attained. It is like a light bulb being switched on that illuminates the dark pockets of your unconscious mind. It is the first step to facilitating any change you wish to make in yourself. Cultivating awareness is a lifelong process. Every moment presents you with the opportunity to remain awake or to slip into unconscious behavior. Now, we can walk through life on automatic pilot, or we can pay attention and behave in a conscious manner. The key to learning awareness lies in tracing the root of your behavior so you can identify the beliefs that cause you to repeat the same patterns. Once you identify the patterns, you can then work on releasing them through willingness. The opportunity to learn the lesson of awareness is presented each time you feel a sense of discontent in your life. With every desire for a shift on your path or vision of something different comes the chance to look within and ask yourself, what is the truth of what I want? What change do I want to make? The answer that arises to those questions will provide you with the awareness you need to move forward in your process of change. Willingness. The real secret to being able to change is the willingness to do so. If you are to make any progress at all in excavating yourself from the cycles that entrap you, you must first identify the patterns that keep you stuck. Then you can begin to release the old behaviors. If you truly want to change, you will choose to do it and make a commitment to the process of it. However, if you rely on the thought that you should change, you will make the decision to do so, and then you will feel the pinch of sacrifice. Following the current trends, the advice of friends, or the wishes of family members result in decisions. Following your inner compass results in choice. Perhaps the change you wish to make is to stop smoking. If you truly want to stop, then you choose to do so, and you make a commitment to quitting. However, if you just have the nagging feeling that you should quit, you might then decide to do so and thus end up feeling like you are making a sacrifice by quitting. Or perhaps you think you need to begin an exercise regime. If you truly want to do this because you want to become healthy or more fit, then you will viscerally make the choice to do so, and you will have a much easier time making a commitment to your new routine. Remember, want leads to choice, wish leads to commitment, should leads to decision, which leads to sacrifice. Causality. Causality is the acknowledgement that you are the source of your manifestations. In other words, everything that you attract into your life is coming to you because of something you are projecting out into the world. And you are therefore responsible for drawing to you all of your circumstances. It's difficult to give up the idea that circumstances just happen to you, as opposed to because of you or your behavior. By remaining an innocent victim of fate, you do not have to acknowledge that you are in any way responsible for what befalls you, and you can continue to hide deep within the vortex of your patterns. Think back to your friend, the perfectionist, who consistently attracted sloppy men into her life. As she and I discussed her pattern, she began to consider the possibility that she was projecting something out into the world that was attracting these men. Perhaps it was that she was so well put together and groomed that they gravitated toward her so that she could reinforce their identity as slobs by comparison. Or perhaps it was simply an issue of chemistry. Regardless of what energy it was that drew these men into her life, she ultimately needed to own up to the fact that she was the cause of her circumstances. Patience. Patience is the display of tolerance while awaiting an outcome. You are presented with the lesson of patience the moment you try to create a change within yourself. You expect immediate results and are often disappointed when your first few attempts to follow through fall short. When people who try to lose weight cheat on their diets, they get very frustrated with themselves for not being able to stay with their new eating regime and berate themselves for not changing their patterns. As you already know, change is rarely easy, and you need to exercise gentleness and patience with yourself as you work your way through this process. Growth can be a slow, painstaking process, and patience will provide you with the stamina you need to become the person you want to be. Rule 5. Learning does not end. Surrender. Surrender is the transcendence of ego and the release of control. When you surrender to your lessons that arise, you allow yourself to flow with the rhythm of life rather than struggling against it. The key to coming to peace with your role as a perpetual student lies in surrendering to what is rather than trying to create what you envision should be. If resistance has often been a theme throughout your life, then surrender will appear in your curriculum. If you are one of those people who always have to do things his way or possess a strong, willful ego, then surrender will seem like defeat to you. But surrender only signifies defeat in war. In life, it signifies transcendence. Commitment. Commitment means devoting yourself to something or someone and staying with it, no matter what. If you look at anyone who is a good student, you will see a shining example of commitment. He or she is fully devoted to his or her course of study and commits to it all the time and energy that is needed to excel. As you come to embrace your role as a matriculating student, you need to make a commitment to yourself and the universe to learning and mastering all your lessons. If you have this lesson in your life path, it will show up as an inability to make choices or to stick to choices already made. It might start with a difficulty in choosing ice cream flavors, grow into a dilemma about how to spend your free time, then get compounded by where to live. If you still haven't learned the lesson by adulthood, it could manifest in ambivalence about marrying the person you've been dating for 8 years. Humility. A person with humility has a confident yet modest sense of his or her own merits, but also an understanding of his or her limitations. The moment you think you have seen everything or know it all, the universe senses arrogance and gives you a great big dose of humility. You must give up on the idea that you can ever become so enlightened that you have nothing left to learn. Zen masters know that even for them, learning never ends. Humility is the lesson that stings, for along with it usually comes some kind of loss or downfall. The universe likes to keep things in balance. So when an inflated ego ignores civility and patience, it introduces humility as a way to bring the ego back down to earth. And though the sting feels like a wound at the time, it really is just a poke from the higher power to keep you balanced. Flexibility. Flexibility is defined as being adaptable to change. In the course of your lifetime, you will be tempted to try to hold on to what is, when in fact what is only a temporary phase, but evolves almost immediately into what was. It is essential that you learn to bend and flex around every new circumstance, as rigidity robs you of the opportunity to see the freedom of new possibilities. In order to truly embrace your role as a student of life, you need to cultivate the ability to move easily from knowingness to not knowingness, which in turn moves you from master to student again and again. In other words, you can learn the lesson of flexibility once you are able to flow with what is coming next rather than clinging to the way things are presently. Rule 6, there is no better than here. Gratitude. To be grateful means you are thankful for and appreciative of what you have and where you are on your path right now. Gratitude fills your heart with a joyful feeling of being blessed with many gifts and allows you to fully appreciate everything that arises on your path. As you strive to keep your focus on the present moment, you can experience the full wonder of here. My friend Martin always used to complain about the city of Los Angeles, where he lived for 3 years while getting his doctorate. He complained incessantly about the smog, the traffic, and the expensive lifestyle. Martin was convinced life would be far rosier when he would be able to move to another city. Within a few weeks of finishing his program and earning his degree, Martin packed his belongings and moved to Boulder. Within months of his arrival there, he began to complain about the cold weather, the slow pace, and how much difficulty he was having finding a house that was up to his standards. And suddenly, he regretted that he never appreciated the sunny weather and the exciting lifestyle of Los Angeles. In my last conversation with Martin, I gently pointed out that perhaps this was an opportunity for him to learn the lesson of gratitude by appreciating the splendor of his new city rather than focusing on another there. Gratitude is a lesson that needs to be reinforced often. Unattachment. Unattachment is the release of need or expectation associated with a specific outcome. For most people, this is one of life's most difficult lessons to learn. We become attached to the way we envision something working out and struggle to make circumstances bend to our desires. Life, however, has its own agenda, and we are destined to suffer unless we give up our attachment to things working out exactly as we would like. We learn unattachment when we are able to release our belief that there is any better than here. Unattachment is one of the cornerstones of Buddhism. For centuries, Buddhists have taught that one of the major causes of unhappiness is desire. Desire for a person, for material things, for money or status. These desires create our attachments. We become attached to a person, attached to money, our new car, or our status as a senior vice president. Ultimately, these attachments are fleeting. We spend a lot of our time and energy in pursuit of them, and they prevent us from paying attention to the really important things in life. Feeling desire assumes a sense of dissatisfaction and brings about suffering. The way to happiness is to eliminate desire, and the way to eliminate desire is to eliminate attachments. Abundance. One of the most common human fears is scarcity. Many people are afraid of just not having enough of whatever it is they need or want, and so they're always striving to get to some point in the future when they finally have enough. They fool themselves into believing that one day they will have everything all set. They will have all the money they need, all the possessions they desire, all the love they crave, all the success they strive for. But is anything ever really enough? Did anyone ever really arrive there? Abundance means that all things are possible and that there is more than enough of everything for everyone, right here and now. As you shift your focus from some point in the future to the present, you are able to fully see the riches and gifts you already have, and thus learn the lesson of abundance. Alan and Linda always dreamed of living the good life. Both from poor working-class families, they married young and set out to fulfill their mutual goal of becoming wealthy. They both worked very hard for years, amassing a small fortune, so they could move from their 2-bedroom condominium to a palatial 7-bedroom home in the most upscale neighborhood in their community. They focused their energies on accumulating all the things they believed signified abundance. Membership in the local country club, luxury cars, designer clothing, high-class society friends. No matter how much they accumulated, however, it never seemed to be enough. They needed to learn the lesson of abundance. Living in the present brings the one thing most people spend their lives striving to achieve: peace. Relaxing into the present moment puts you into the mental and physical state of calm, quiet, and tranquility, and finally gets us off the here, but gotta get there treadmill. If you are in the moment of doing whatever you are doing, then there is no time to examine the gap between your expectation and the reality of how things are, or between where you are and where you think you should be. You are too busy being in the moment to analyze it and find fault with it. One of my favorite movies is Being There, in which Peter Sellers plays the lovable idiot savant Chauncey Gardner. Simple-minded Chauncey lives his life only in the present moment, with absolutely no awareness of anything other than what he sees before him. When an odd twist of circumstances transports him from his beloved garden, which he spent most of his life tending, into a position advising presidents and powerful business moguls, Chauncey merely offers the wisdom he gleaned from tending the flowers and soil. Of course, the rest of the world interprets his simple statements as wise analogies, and he is hailed as one of the greatest minds of our time. Chauncey is peaceful in his simplicity. Life is simple and easy for this man, to whom past and future references have no meaning. He is focused completely on the present moment. Rule 7. Others are only mirrors of you. Tolerance. In Rule 1, you learn the lesson of acceptance, in which you learn to embrace all parts of yourself. Tolerance is the outward extension of acceptance. It is when you learn to embrace all parts of others and allow them to be and express themselves fully as the unique humans that they are. You will need to learn tolerance in order to coexist peacefully with others. Tolerance quiets the inner critic. Live and let live. When I was 16 years old, I remember walking down 57th Street in New York City and being suddenly aware for the first time of a voice in my head talking to me. It sounded like a running commentary on everyone within my field of vision. I heard it broadcasting impressions incessantly, and the majority were far from kind. I realized that I could and did find fault with every single person I passed. The next thought that came to me was, isn't that amazing? I must be the only perfect person in the universe, since everyone else apparently has something wrong with him. But once I realized how ridiculous this sounded, it dawned on me that perhaps my judgments of all these people on the street were reflections of myself, as opposed to some objective reality. I began to understand that what I was seeing about each of them said more about me than it said about each of them. I also realized that perhaps I was judging everyone else harshly as a way to feel good about myself, by perceiving them as too fat, too short, or strangely dressed. I was by comparison thinner, taller, and more stylish. In my mind, my intolerance of them rendered me superior. So I decided to examine each judgment I heard in my head and think of it as a mirror, allowing me to glimpse some hidden part of myself. I discovered that there were very few people whom I viewed as acceptable, and the majority of them were very similar to me. So since I rarely allowed myself to relate to anyone who was not exactly like me, I had put myself into an isolated box. From that day on, I used every judgment as a gift to learn more about myself. So making this shift meant that I had to give up judging the world. Giving up my righteous intolerance meant that I could no longer deem myself automatically superior to anyone, and the result was that I needed to take a good look at my own flaws. Clarity. Clarity is the state of seeing clearly. You achieve clarity in those moments of startling insight when you are able to shift your perspective by viewing a situation in a new light. I like to think of clarity as the result of applying Windex to your soul. As you begin to view others as mirrors of yourself, it is as if you move into a new reality in which you experience life with astonishing crystal vision. You learn the lesson of clarity in the exact moments that you accomplish this perspective shift. I achieved a moment of clarity that day when I was 16, when I suddenly tuned in to the running commentator voice inside my head. I saw a woman named Elaine learn clarity the moment she realized that all her anger directed at her disorganized husband was really anger at herself for embodying that very same quality. Healing. Healing is restoration to a state of wholeness and well-being. While healing is generally thought of in physical terms, it is no less essential in the emotional and spiritual realm. Healing is a lifelong process that endeavors to unearth the issues clouding your soul and to repair the metaphorical holes in your heart. All people have healing as a required lesson at some point in their lives, and even those who appear to have perfect lives, devoid of issues, will not be able to bypass this lesson. Life presents too many obstacles and tests for anyone to sail through completely unscathed. Unfortunately, we live in a culture that is tuned into the importance of healing. So a wide range of resources are available. Whatever method you choose is irrelevant. What is important is that you take the time to nurture yourself toward wholeness. Support. Support is holding up from underneath. You support someone when you willingly step forward to strengthen, energize, and help her through a challenging time. Yet the great irony is that when you support others, you are also in fact supporting yourself. When you withhold support from others, it is usually an indicator that you are also withholding support from yourself. When I train people to become facilitators of my workshops, the primary thing I teach them is to be aware of how much their support of the individual workshop participants mirrors their own issues. If a facilitator is having difficulty supporting a participant who is expressing rage, it is a good sign that he or she is not supporting his or her own tolerance of or personal tendency toward rage. If the facilitator cannot support someone developing her sense of inner power, then it is the facilitator's own rejection of his or her own inner power that is getting in the way. This is not unlike the training of psychoanalysts, in which they use their own reactions to patients as mirrors in which the patients can view themselves. Rule 8. What you make of your life is up to you. Responsibility. To take responsibility means you admit your accountability and acknowledge your influence and role in the circumstances in which you find yourself. It means you are answerable for your behavior and you fully accept any consequences created by your actions. Responsibility is not blame, however. And understanding the difference between the two is crucial to learning this lesson. Blame is associated with fault, whereas responsibility denotes authorship. Blame carries guilt and negative feelings. Responsibility brings relief of not having to dodge the full truth anymore and releases that guilt. Blame implies fault. Responsibility implies ownership. Blame is stagnant. Responsibility propels you forward and onward to your greater good. Release. Release is simply the act of letting go. In every situation, you can either take responsibility and attempt to cause things to happen, or you can let go. Neither option is better or worse. Every situation is different, and only you will know what is the right thing to do in each case. There are times when you will need to take responsibility for the progression of a relationship, and times you will need to just let go and walk away. Just as there are times you need to fight with your boss for what you believe, and other times when you need to release the situation to save your energy for more important battles. You learn the lesson of release when you begin to choose it as a conscious act, rather than a passive means to hide from responsibility. Courage. Courage is finding the inner strength and bravery required when confronting danger, difficulty, or opposition. Courage is the energy current behind all great actions and the spark that ignites the initial baby steps of growth. It resides deep within each of us, ready to be accessed in those moments when you need to forge ahead or break through seemingly insurmountable barriers. It is the intangible force that propels you forward on your journey. It takes courage to embrace the idea that what you make of your life is up to you and to actually do what you need to do. You can learn how to access your courage by digging down deep inside and tapping into whatever spiritual connection sustains you. What inspires you to action? Well, for some it is a belief in a higher power. For some it can be meditation or inspiring music, and for others perhaps great literature or spiritual passages. Regardless of what your connection is to the divine source, cultivate it well, for you will need to call upon it in those moments when you will require courage. Power. Power means demonstrating your ability to manifest reality. Within each of us lies a power center, and we learn to call upon this power as we set out to design our lives according to our will. Power is a natural state of being. It is a force to which we are all entitled and to which we all have unlimited access. It's not necessary to search for your inner power, since it is already within you. It is something you were given the moment you were born, and essential to your survival is the ability to breathe. Your power is what propels you forward day after day, what sustains you in dark moments, what gives you the ability to do whatever you feel driven to do. It glows within you like a light beamed outward into the world as needed. Adventure. Your life has the potential to be a wondrous journey filled with exciting moments and astonishing experiences. It can be a thrilling ride if you are open to exploring all that is available to you. Adventure is the result of your willingness to live life with a spirit of enthusiasm. An adventure is an experience that takes you beyond your comfort level. Adventures are what make your blood race and your heart beat with anticipation as you expand beyond your perceived limitations as a human. They expand your horizons and take you into new and exciting worlds. When you feel the aliveness of experimenting with new options and taking risks, you learn the value of adventure in your life. Rule 9. Your answers lie inside of you. Listening. Listening is actively focusing on what messages you are receiving, both verbally and non-verbally. Nowhere is the lesson of listening more important than when it comes to your inner knowing. What good is such divine knowledge if you don't tune in and hear it? You will learn the lesson of listening when you tune into the messages your spiritual DNA is sending you and to what you know is right for you. There's an old joke about a religious man who had an unshakable faith in God. He prayed every day, and he felt that if anything ever happened, the Lord would be there to take care of him. And one day, it started to rain. The man's village flooded, and everyone hurried to escape. Some people came driving by his house in a car, urging him to come with them to safety. His reply was, "The Lord will save me." The rain continued to fall until the water rose so high that the man needed to go up to the second floor of his house to stay dry. A boat came by, and the people on it urged him to climb aboard and go with them to safety. Again, he responded, "Thank you kindly, but the Lord will save me." The man soon needed to go up on the roof in order to avoid the rapidly rising water. A helicopter flew by, and the pilot shouted down, "I'll toss you a line down there and we'll hoist you up." For a third time, the man refused. "Bless you," he said to the pilot, "but the Lord will save me. Any minute you'll see the Lord will do something and I will be saved." Within minutes the water level rose, washing the man out to sea where he drowned. He went to heaven, and when the Lord was reviewing the new arrivals, he was surprised to see the religious man. "You're not supposed to be here," said the Lord. "It's not your time. What are you doing here?" The man said to the Lord, "I believed in you. I believed that you would save me. I waited and waited, and you never came. What happened?" The Lord replied, "I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter. What more do you want?" The point is that we need to listen closely to hear our messages, as they do not always sound or look the way we think they will. You need to be tuned in to pick up their frequency, or else you might miss some important clues being generated from your spiritual center. Trust. Once you learn to listen to your messages, you then move to the next deeper level of growth, trusting those messages. You learn the lesson of trust when you take a leap of faith and believe that your inner knowing is guiding you toward your greater good. Trust is the attunement of your instincts to know who and what is in your best interest, so that you may rely absolutely on the validity of your messages. The heart of my inner negotiation workshop is encouraging participants to trust their messages. Very often this creates fear in them, as they cannot comprehend that it is safe within the confines of the workshop to act upon and trust whatever message they're receiving. So once they relax into it and trust, however, incredible things happen. I've seen a normally reserved corporate banker wailing away on an electric guitar. I've watched Sari, a model from New York, trust her message that she needed to let out a howl right then and there, even though she had no idea why. Howl she did, and loudly. By trusting that message, Sari got in touch with a long-lost need within her to be out in nature. She kept her job in New York, but now makes sure to spend adequate time out in the woods where she feels connected and centered. Inspiration. Inspiration is the moment in which the spirit within is accessed and revealed. Inspiration dawns when something in your outer world sparks a flame within you and calls forth a message. It arrives to remind you that all your answers lie inside of you, and that you alone are the wisest wizard in your kingdom. It is often easy to miss those moments until you learn to truly hear the inner ding and give it the space to emerge into your consciousness. As you move toward honoring your inner knowing, you can more easily recognize those moments of inspiration, many of which can be life-transforming. Spending time in nature can be a wonderful source of inspiration. The natural world has an energy to it that can put you in touch with the deepest parts of yourself. Thoreau spent 2 years alone in the woods so that he could commune with nature and access the wisdom inside him. Rule 10, you will forget all of this at birth. You came into this world already knowing all of the information imparted by these rules. You simply forgot them. Somewhere along your journey from the spirit world to the physical one. Each lesson is like another stone along your life path, and as you travel and learn your lessons, some may look and feel familiar. When something resonates for you and you finally get one of the lessons, you are remembering what you originally knew. When you have an aha moment, you're remembering. When you are still and at peace, you are remembering. Some call it planets aligning, some call it feeling at one with God. Still others call it serenity. Call it what you want, but know it is a moment of remembering. Faith. Have faith in yourself that you will remember your truth and the knowledge stored deep within your soul. There may be moments in which you cannot see your way clear to your truth, moments of darkness and uncertainty. Life can be difficult, and there may be times when you cannot make sense out of it or stay afloat. These are the moments that require faith. Faith is the lone candle in the darkness, when you feel jettisoned out into space, in the invisible net that lies beneath you when you feel as though you may stumble. It is what carries you through those patches of temporary amnesia. Faith is simply believing, without any tangible proof, that although the truth may seem eclipsed at times, it does not disappear forever. It simply lies dormant inside you until you reconnect with your innate wisdom. A way to keep your faith alive is through touchstones. In your enlightened moments, collect things that connect you to your source. They can be symbols or objects or bits of writing or quotes, anything that brings you back to the place within you that is connected to the universal spirit. In your moments of forgetting, surround yourself with them to remind you of who you are and what you are capable of. Wisdom. The ultimate destination of your life path is wisdom. Wisdom is the highest and deepest degree of knowledge, insight, and understanding. It provides you with the broadest perspective on life, its purpose, and the lessons you learn throughout your lifetime. When you find your wisdom, you are living in the light. Wisdom is not a state to be achieved, but rather a state to be recalled. You arrived on this planet fully equipped with the boundless wisdom inherent in all humans. You only need to access that place within you that connects you to the infinite divine source in order to remember it. You are every bit as wise as the Buddha, Aristotle, or Confucius. They have simply accessed places inside themselves where perhaps you have not yet journeyed. Wisdom is not intelligence. It has nothing to do with the level of your IQ or how well you did in school. Rather, wisdom is the highest level of emotional, spiritual, and mental evolution at which you value intuition as much as information, willingness as much as ability, and inspiration as much as knowledge. It is where you synergize your deepest understanding with your everyday actions. Limitlessness. The final lesson you must learn as you embrace the 10 rules for being human is limitlessness. For that will keep you traveling along your path long after you finish hearing this book. Limitlessness is the sense that there are no boundaries to what you can become or do. You learn it when you become that your evolution is never ending and your potential for growth reaches to infinity. You were born knowing your limitlessness. As you grew and became socialized in this world, however, you might have come to believe that there are boundaries that prevent you from reaching the highest levels of spiritual, emotional, or mental evolution. However, boundaries exist only in your mind. When you are able to transcend them, you learn the lesson of limitlessness. The reason there is no end to the levels you can reach is because you already have infinite potential within you. Your challenge in this lifetime is simply to uncover that potential by peeling back the layers and remembering this essential truth. There's nothing you cannot do, be, or have. All is within your reach. Know your limits, not so that you can honor them, but so that you can smash them to pieces and reach for magnificence. Your time here on earth is brief. Time passes and things change. You have options and choices in which to make your wishes, dreams, and goals become reality. When you ask yourself, why am I here, or why is this happening to me, or what is it all about, turn to your spiritual primer. Ask yourself, what is the lesson? If you hear a defensive reaction using the words never or always in your response, you haven't yet learned the lesson. Next, go a little deeper and ask, what is there for me to learn from this experience? Each time you view your circumstances as possessing value, regardless of the apparent confusion or hardship, you grow. Your personal evolution will depend on how readily you embrace your lessons and integrate them into your life. Remind yourself that you are here to learn lessons. Be present with your process. Pay attention to what you're experiencing. Be diligent with actions which enable you to get the lessons presented to you. Ask for answers and you shall receive them. Listen with an open heart. Explore all options. See your judgment as a mirror. View each crisis as an opportunity. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. Look within yourself to your higher self for guidance on all your choices. Extend compassion to yourself. Remember, there are no mistakes, only lessons. Love yourself, trust your choices, and everything is possible.